Getting to know the world's greatest artists. Paul Klee. Paul Klee was born in Switzerland in 1879 and was an important artist and a good musician, writer, and teacher. Let's take a look at some of his modern art. He used lots of color, and his works of art are filled with beautiful, exciting colors. Sometimes you can recognize certain things in his paintings like people, animals, or houses, or sometimes use the alphabet that maybe had special meaning to him. His art is known as abstract art. Objects and figures in abstract art are different than they look in real life. Sometimes they don't look like anything at all. Sometimes they're colors and shapes. Paul Klee always loved drawing. When he was little, he used to draw and imagine things on these tabletops. So the marble started making him think and use his imagination. Paul, could you hurry up? We're running out of tables. I'm sorry, Uncle Ernest. I just found a castle with an evil dragon about to kidnap a princess and a brave knight that's going to rescue her. Paul Klee grew up in a very musical family. His mother was a singer and his father was a music teacher. They taught him how to play the violin when he was young. Music and art were super important to him, so he didn't know if he should be a musician or an artist. Finally, Paul decided to study art in Germany. Munich was an important art center at the beginning of the 20th century in Germany, where artists were trying new and exciting things. Paul met some of the artists and became friends with them. Kandinsky, Mark, and August Mack painted in a new style he'd never seen before. Please pass the blue, I'm painting a horse. Pass the orange, I'm painting a tree. How about purple, I'm painting a glass of milk. Paul found that very interesting. Paul liked the bright colors and shapes that these artists used, the almost childlike way that he painted people and objects. He realized that a painting didn't have to look like a photograph to be a good painting. Paul worked very hard to learn all he could about drawing with line. Then he learned about how to give things shape and how to make things seem solid. Finally, he learned about color, and he learned as much as he could from the world's greatest artists. It was on one of his trips that Paul Klee decided he would spend the rest of his life as an artist. In Tunisia, Africa, Paul noticed how colorful things were in this beautiful country that was mysterious and gorgeous. He thought that the light there gave everything a fairy tale look, and he couldn't wait to start painting what he saw. The next day, Paul began painting watercolors of Tunisia. Paul showed the excitement he felt during his trip by changing the natural shapes and colors of things. Paul Klee changed the natural look of things in his paintings for a reason. Up until Paul Klee's time, artists liked to paint what they liked to look at, or things they were familiar with. But Paul and his friends thought a painting should be more than that. Paul wanted his paintings to show worlds that had never been seen before. He thought it was important to give you, the person looking at his paintings, a special feeling deep down inside, a feeling a person couldn't get from a normal painting. If you look closely at a Paul Klee painting for a while, you might get a feeling of energy or movement through space, or see a microscopic world never seen before. Paul gave some of his paintings a musical feeling. Even though paintings don't have sound, many people see the patterns of color and shape and imagine the rhythm of music, kind of like the paintings you see here. Paul Klee was always experimenting with his painting materials, with the surfaces that he painted on. Sometimes he painted on rough cloth with one kind of paint and covered it with another kind of paint. He used chalks, paste, and even crayons to make colors seem like they're glowing from inside. In some of his works, you can see the ragged edges of the cloth or paper that he painted on. Paul Klee always felt close to nature and carefully studied the natural things around him, like in this picture here. When he was a teacher, Paul taught his students not to imitate a camera, which copies objects as they appear. He wanted his students to look below the surface of things to find new and exciting worlds. Paul Klee's paintings often show his sense of humor. Sometimes he used interesting titles to make his paintings more fun. Near the end of his life, Paul Klee's colors became a little darker and the titles became more serious. But he still painted pictures filled with fantasy and magic. It's fun to see a real Paul Klee painting, but if you don't ever get to see one, maybe someday when you're on vacation, you could see one. I hope you have a good time working and learning in a Paul Klee style. Have a great time, everybody.